And so the author says, may Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala have mercy upon him, Kitabul Hajj, the book of Hajj, meaning Kitabu Ahkamil Hajj, the book of the rules of Hajj. وهو لغة القصد, and linguistically, Hajj is intent or goal. وشرعا, and religiously, it is قصد البيت الحرام للنسك. It is the mission to the holy house, the mission to the sacred house for the worship, for the nusuk. Nusuk, N-U-S-U-K. This word nusuk, it can mean worship, ibadah. Nusuk can mean ibadah, worship. And nusuk can mean the worship of Hajj and Umrah in particular. And nusuk can have other meanings. Nusuk can also be the sacrificed animal. Like when you say, Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. Inna salati, surely my salah, wa nusuki, and my sacrifice, wa mahyaya wa mamati, and my life and my death, lillahi rabbil alameen, belong to Allah, Lord of the worlds. So the religious definition of Hajj is qasdul bayti lin nusuk, or al bayti al haram lin nusuk. The mission to the sacred house for the worships. Yani, the worships that are there. The worships that are done there. And you know what the holy house or the sacred house means. That's the Kaaba. وَالْعُمْرَةُ لُغَةً الزِّيَارَةِ. Now, al-umrah linguistically means visit. وَشَرْعًا, and religiously it is ziyaratul ka'bati linnusuk. It is visiting the Kaaba for the worship. So there's two worships. One is called al-hajj and the other is called al-umrah. In terms of their religious definitions, the hajj is the mission to the Kaaba and the umrah is a visit to the Kaaba. Yani, so you might say, what's the difference? So as far as the wording is concerned, the difference in the wording here and the definitions is that the mission to the Kaaba has more official connotation, and the visit to the Kaaba has more subhanallah, I just had the word, more of a like a relaxed meaning, not so official. There's a better word I wanted to use. The scholars differed about whether Umrah is obligatory or not, but they didn't differ about the Hajj being obligatory. But we're going over the Shafi'i school, and in the Shafi'i school, it is indeed obligatory, the Umrah. Now, in terms of the worship, what's the difference between them? Yani, what's Hajj and what's Umrah? Umrah is like a mini Hajj. That's just to give you an idea. So it's very similar to Hajj. but it doesn't have all of the features of Hajj. So inshallah ta'ala, as we study together, as we review together, this is review for me, then it will become clearer, inshallah. وكل منهما فرض على التراخي. Both of them, the Hajj and the Umrah in the Shafi'i school, are obligatory in a way that allows you to delay the performance. At-tarahi means delay. What this means is, according to Ash-Shafi'i, if you become able to perform the Hajj 1 year, then you're still allowed to delay doing it. Similar to a makeup prayer that you missed with an excuse. If you missed a prayer with an excuse in Shafi'i school, do you have to make it up immediately, or are you allowed to delay making it up? You are allowed to delay making it up, and you need to make it up before you die. If you die without making it up, then a major sin will be written on you upon death. That's the judgment of the Hajj and the Umrah in the Shafi'i school also. Once you become able to perform them, then you're obligated to do them, but you're allowed to delay them. But if you die after being able, without doing them, then upon death, a major sin will be written against you. في العمر مرة في العمر, once in a lifetime. So you do it once, you don't have to do it again. So what's the case of those 5 most important matters in Islam? The first one is the Shahada, that no one is God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. This one, you have to have it constantly, all the time. It's not going to stop. Then the second one is the prayer. This one you're going to do 5 times per day. Then the third one is the zakah. This one you're going to do once per year, or according to the rules. When I say once per year, that's only a generality here. You could have zakah applying to you in more than one way. You have zakat al-fitr, you have the zakah of money, you have the zakah of bodies, you're going to pay that in Ramadan time. Zakah of money, then depends on your money situation if you have to pay. If you're a trader, and if you have, then you have to pay zakat of trade, so that might be once in a year. But you might also have other things that are applicable to zakat. You might have to pay that also. So you might have 2 or 3 zakats to pay in a year. Depends on your situation. If you don't have any money, you're not going to have to pay the zakat. And the fourth one is fasting Ramadan. You're going to do that once per year. And then the fifth one is the Hajj, and you're going to do that once in a lifetime. أي لكن إذا أخره بعد الوجوب فمات قبل أدائه أثم بالموت. Like I just told you, if a person delayed the Hajj after it became obligatory on him, and then he died before performing it, then at death he will be sinful. وبدأ المصنف بالحج إذ وجوبه بالإجماع. And the author, that's Abu Shuja', he started by talking about Hajj, not Umrah. Why did he start with the Hajj and not the Umrah? Because the obligation of Hajj is a case of consensus. So that's definitely correct. The obligation of Umrah is not by consensus, that's by a Shafi'i's ijtihad. So it's disputable to the mujtahids, whether that's correct or not. We'll see, insha'Allah ta'ala, maybe not today, but when we come to it, we'll see. What proof did a Shafi'i have to say that Umrah is obligatory? Because Hajj, for example, you know that's in the hadith about the 5 most important matters of Islam. It doesn't say Umrah in there. So how could he say Umrah is obligatory? We'll see, insha'Allah ta'ala, what we have. المأخوذ من قوله تعالى في سورة آل عمران. And the consensus for the obligation of the Hajj is taken from God's word in Surah Al-Imran. وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا وَمَنْ كَفَرَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ عَنِ الْعَالَمِينَ. This ayah, and for the sake of Allah on the people, is the obligation of going on a mission to the house with a capital H. وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ. For the sake of Allah on the people is the obligation of going on a mission to the house. مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. For anyone who is able to make a way there. For anyone who is able to make a way there. So this ayah doesn't say anything about Umrah. This ayah mentions Hijjul Bayt, Hijj, with kasra, Hijj instead of Hajj. You can say Hajj with Fatha, and you can say Hijj with a kasra. Those are 2 variants of the same word. Like how they say, you say tomato, I say tomato. You can say Hajj, you can say Hijj. The ayah here says Hijj. وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. So this ayah is evidence for the consensus of Hajj being obligatory. فقال, Abu Shuja' says, وَشَرَائِطُ وُجُوبِ الْحَجِّ سَبْعَةُ أَشْيَاء. The conditions for the obligation of the Hajj are 7 things. هي الإسلام والبلوغ والعقل والحرية. Those 7 things include Islam, puberty, sanity, and freedom. فلا يجب الحج على الكافر. So, therefore, Hajj is not obligatory on a disbeliever. We mean, we don't request of him to perform it, but he will be responsible for it, as you know, just like we learned in the chapter of prayer. وَلَا عَلَى الصَّبِيِّ. Nor is it obligatory on a prepubescent child. وَالْمَجْنُونَ. Nor is it obligatory on an insane person. وَالرَّقِيقُ. Nor is it obligatory on a slave. نعم يصح من الصبي والرقيق المميزين بأنفسهما. But yes, although it's not obligatory on a child or a slave, if either of those have mental discerning, if either of those is mumayyiz, then they can perform the Hajj independently. Like prayer. Can't you let a child who's 7, 8, 9 years old pray? He can pray on his own. Also, you can let such a child perform the rituals of Hajj on his own, but it's just not obligatory on him. And also a slave. If he's mumayyiz, although it's not obligatory on him, he can perform Hajj on his own. But what does that mean on his own? Because it's not like you're going to pray for someone. You can't do someone's prayer in his place. Yani, I gave you the example of the child praying. Is my analogy correct? Analogy? Comparing the prayer to the Hajj like this? Yani, what do you mean? Yeah, you can let the child pray on his own. Well, what else is going to do? Somebody else is not going to do it for him. You're not going to say, okay, you sit down, I'm going to pray for you. Watch me. Allahu Akbar, and then you pray on behalf of the child. Doesn't happen. But in the Hajj, like this could happen, though. Not exactly like you just do it on their behalf, no, but under your supervision. You will see, inshallah ta'ala. He says here, وَمِنَ الْمَجْنُونِ وَغَيْرِ الْمُمَيِّزِ بِطَرِيقِ وَلِيِّهِ. Hajj is valid from a crazy person and a child who's below mental discerning, like 3 years old, 2 years old, 1 year old. How? By way of his guardian. So means guardian is when it comes time to do tawaf around the Kaaba, the guardian's going to do wudu on this ward. The ward is the child who's under the guardian, or the crazy person under the guardian. He's going to do wudu on the ward, wash the face of the child with the intention, on behalf of the child, wash the child's arms, wipe his head, wash his feet, or the crazy person that he's in charge of. And then take his ward around the Kaaba. And like that, take this child between the mountains, for example. So this is the meaning of these people not being able to do it on their own. That's where Hajj and prayer are different. You're not going to do the prayer for the child. But in the Hajj, you could accompany the child, and under your supervision, then this child or this crazy person, then they could achieve a Hajj. It's going to be recommended for them, though. They're going to get rewarded for it, inshallah ta'ala. If you do it right, it's rewardable for them as a voluntary deed, as a sunnah, not an obligation. Yeah, it has to be the guardian. وَأَمَّا الْكَافِرُ فَلَا يَصِحُّ مِنْهُ. Now concerning the disbeliever, it's not valid if he were to perform it. لِأَنَّهُ لَيْسَ أَهْلًا لِلْعِبَادَةِ, because he is not qualified to have valid worship. وَالِاسْتِطَاعَةِ, and ability is a condition for Hajj to be obligatory on one. وَتَحْصُلُ بِأَشْيَاء. This ability happens by some things. If some things exist, if some things happen or exist, then the ability will be confirmed. مِنْهَا وُجُودُ الزَّادِ. One of them is having luggage. So if you don't have luggage, that means you don't have the baggage, you don't have the containers you need to make the trip, to go on the mission, then it's not going to be obligatory on you. وأوعيته إن احتاج إليها. That's if one needs that. If one does need that. If you need baggage or luggage to go on the mission, to make the pilgrimage, then it's a condition. If you don't have that baggage or luggage or containers, that includes containers, like bags and containers that you need. If you need them but you don't have them, then you're unable. You will be counted as unable, so you won't be obligated to perform the Hajj. ذهابا وإيابا, coming and going, going and coming back. This luggage, in order for you to be obligated to perform the Hajj, I'm just going to say luggage. In order for you to be obligated to perform the Hajj, then that luggage, if you need the luggage, it needs to be then something that lasts you for the whole trip, going there and coming back. If it doesn't last you going and coming back, but you would need it to, then you're not able. And what we're saying then is, if you had the luggage you need to get there, but not to come back, that means you're not able. وإلا بأن لم يحتج إليها كمن هو قريب من مكة فلا تشترط. However, if one does not need luggage, how would that be? Like he lives close to Mecca, then the luggage will not be a condition for him to be obligated. So then take the scenario of an able-bodied man. He lives a day from Mecca, for example, walking, and he doesn't need the luggage. This able-bodied man without luggage could take the trip and get back. Then he'd be obligated. ويشترط أيضا وجود الماء في المواضع المعتاد حمل الماء منها بثمن المثل. And also, it's a condition that water would be present in the places where it is usually obtained. And that water would be normal price. Market price, normal price. Normal price depends on the time and place. So what we're saying is, you're going to, or you want to embark on this mission to the house. One of the things that make you able to do it is that the water spots on the way, you know how when you travel, for example, sometimes there's like places where you can stop on the road and pull over. So similar to that, there's spots for water here and there on the way to get to Hajj, to get to Mecca, that is. So the water spots have water. The normal water spots have water, and it's not expensive. It's not above market price. If that's the case, then you're able to go on the mission. وَوُجُودُ الرَّاحِلَةِ, and having a ride. التي تصلح له, a suitable ride. بشراء أو استئجار, whether by purchasing that ride or even renting it. If you can purchase this ride or rent it, then you're able. هذا للأنثى والخنثى مطلقا. And what we are saying about having a ride is for female and a hermaphrodite absolutely. For a female and a hermaphrodite absolutely. What does that mean? It means if the female, let's say, lived close to Mecca, but she didn't have a ride, then the religion doesn't charge her with walking. So the ride is not a condition for a man, absolutely. But a ride is a condition for a woman, absolutely. And for a hermaphrodite, absolutely. Because that hermaphrodite might be a woman. وأما الذكر فإنما تعتبر الراحلة في حقه إذا كان بينه وبين مكة مرحلتان. As for the male, the ride would only be a condition, would only be considered if there were a 2-day walking distance between him and Mecca. وَإِنْ قَدَرَ عَلَى الْمَشِي, even if he is able to walk. Yani, if Mecca is a 2-day walking distance from him, then ride is a condition for him. If it's less than 2 days, so take it this way, the way I'm saying it now. Perhaps the way I said it just a few minutes ago is less than accurate. This way I'm saying it, you can take it this way, which is this. If there's a 2-day walking distance between this man and Mecca, then a ride is a condition for him to be obligated. So if it's less than 2 days before that, so even if he is able to walk, but since it's that much distance, 2 days walking, and he is able to walk, then a ride is a condition to be considered able. Yani, we're saying if he doesn't have a ride in this case, then he's counted as unable and he won't be obligated to make the Hajj. فإن كان بينه وبين مكة دون مرحلتين فإن كان بينه وبين مكة دون مرحلتين, if there's less than 2-day walking distance between him and Mecca, وهو قوي على المشي, and he has the strength to walk, لزمه الحج بلا راحلة لعدم المشقة, he would be obligated to perform the Hajj without a ride because there's no difficulty. ويشترط كون ما ذكر فاضلا عن دينه, and it's also a condition that this one would have an excess of his debts. Subhanallah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Someone sent me a question recently, or asked me a question recently about someone who wants to make Hajj. Their debts are due. If they were to pay their debts, they wouldn't be able to make Hajj, but the money they do actually have is enough to make the Hajj. So it means this person's unable. But what was interesting about that conversation is that the person is just basically willing to burn his debtors. Burn here means just leave them hanging and not pay them and go on the Hajj, although the debt is due. That's not permissible. Sometimes some people, they only want to get an answer from someone who's going to give them the answer that they want to hear. Don't be like that. وَلَوْ مُؤَجَّلًا, even if the debt is not due yet, but if it were, he has enough money to still make Hajj and pay his debt. وَعَنْ مُؤْنَةِ مَنْ عَلَيْهِ مُؤْنَتُهُمْ, and he has to have enough money for the expenses, his own expenses, and that we covered that. Yeah, and he has to have enough money for the expenses of anyone of for his dependents. He has to have enough money for the expenses of his dependents. So that means after considering how much his dependents need, and after considering his debts, he still has money, and with this money he can make Hajj. Then he has to go to the Hajj. Muddata dhahabihi wa iyabih, going and coming back. Enough money for his dependents for his trip, going and coming back. Yani for his entire trip. وعن مسكنه اللائق به, and he has enough money for lodging. وعن عبد يليق به إن احتاج إليه, and he has a slave, or I say has enough money for lodging. Let's just say he has lodging. Let's just put it that way. And he has lodging, befitting lodging. So, befitting lodging, not like he has a cardboard box, not like he has a bunch of blankets. He's just going to sleep on the ground and put 5 blankets on top of himself on the ground like a homeless man. And he has a slave that he needs if he needs one. And he has a slave that he needs if he needs one. I don't know if the tent is befitting. If it is befitting, then so be it. But I don't know. When we say a befitting lodging, that's always going to depend on its circumstances. So that's not going to be the same thing for every person. That's why the words are so open like that, so that it's applicable to each person's circumstances. Because, Yani, what if he's coming from icy place and all he has is a tent? Yani, that's probably not going to work. So that means then after you learn like this, and then you have some sense, then you look into your situation, you're going to say, yeah, that's not going to work. What I have is not going to work. Or the like of that. You might say, I probably could do it, but I'm not obligated religiously because this is really not sufficient. I will just go hard if I want to go hard, but I don't have to go hard. The religion didn't command me to go this hard. If you know what go hard means. وَتَخْلِيَةُ الطَّرِيقِ, and a clear road, a clear path. أي أمنها, this means a safe path. Clear path means safe path. ظَنًّا بِحَسَبِ مَا يَلِيقُ بِكُلِّ مَكَانٍ, meaning it's enough to assume that it's safe. That's enough to assume, to think that it's safe. To think that the path is safe is enough to make you obligated. So this goes back to what we've been learning in the other lesson about knowledge and confidence. Here, that means, when I say think, means to be confident that the road is safe, that the path is safe. Because you might not know, but you're confident that it is. Then you'd be obligated. This is one of the reasons why it's important to learn the difference between knowledge and confidence, because a lot of religious rules suffice with confidence. And this safety of which we speak is relative. Each place has its own regard. Each place has its own regard. So it means you might be traveling by boat, so it might be safe by boat, or it might be treacherous by boat, very fierce waters, or by land, and it might be safe by land, or it might be dangerous by land. There's bandits, or maybe if you are going by boat, maybe there's pirates. So like this, so many things that you could consider. So you're going to look into that, and if you're confident that it's safe, then you have to go. فلو لم يأمن الشخص على نفسه أو ماله أو بضعه. And so, if a person's life is not secure, nor his money, nor his chastity, his or her, لم يجب عليه النسك, then the nusuk is not obligatory on it. And when we say, so what did we say here? His life, his money, and his chastity, yani that includes also any of his limbs. Any of his limbs. Like if he's going to lose an arm or a leg, but not his life and not his chastity and not his money, still, this is not safe. What if I didn't tell you that right there? Now, some person would be able to understand, say, well, if I'm going to lose an arm, that means I can't go. Another person's going to say, wait a minute. You said his life, his money, and his chastity, but you didn't say, what if he loses an arm or a leg? I don't know. It's not clear for me. Tell me. So then ask, though. If it's not clear, you're still going to ask. وإمكان المسير, and the ability to make the trip, to complete the trip. Yeah, if he doesn't fear for those things, then that means he's secure. So then he has to perform the Hajj. وإمكان المسير, and the ability to complete the trip. بحيث يبقى من الزمان بعد وجود الزاد والراحلة ما يمكن فيه السير المعهود إلى مكة, such that after a person has acquired his ride and his luggage, he has everything he needs. Once he has that, now he needs to look. Now that I have everything I need, can I still get there in time? If I leave now that I got my stuff now, can I get there in time, or I won't be able to get there in time, even though technically I could get there. I have everything I need to get there. I can get there, but will I be able to get there in time? So if you can't get there in time after you got all of what you need to go, then you are not counted as being able. فإن أمكن إلا أنه يحتاج ليصل لعرفة إلى سير فوق العادة. Because here, why this is important, because Arafah in the Hajj has a time limit. So you need to be able to catch Arafah before it goes out. What's Arafah? We didn't talk about it yet. Hajj has numerous worships. It's like a worship course. Instead of obstacle course, worship course. You go to this worship, and then to this worship, and then to this worship. So one of them is being at Arafah. This one has a time limit though. So if you miss the time, then you've missed the Hajj. So that's basically what we're saying here. Once you got everything you need to make the trip, you say, okay, I got it all now. All my money straight. I got my ride. I got my luggage. I got my Tupperware. Everything I need. But if I go now, I won't make it in time for Arafah. That means you're not able. So if he were able, however, he needs, in order to make it to Arafah on time, to be at Arafah on time, he needs to go faster than usual. He has to speed. كما إذا احتاج لقطع مرحلتين على الدابة في يوم مثلا. Like he needs to cover a 2-day distance in 1 day. لم يلزمه الحج للضرر. Then the Hajj will not be obligatory on him because of the harm, because of the inconvenience. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Allah knows best.